My son was born in 2000, and I, shortly afterwards, opened up an investment account with the intention of handing it off to him after he graduated college to give him a head start in life. Wife loved the idea. I put in $10,000 initially and started adding $100 monthly, and the account sits at over $60,000 today. A majority of it was just put into mutual funds, and some months I'd take the $100 and toss it into riskier stocks that didn't really pan out. Yes, I learned my lesson. If you're not making this a career, just toss it into funds. When our daughter was born, 2 years later, I started up an account for her as well. About a year in, wife and I got drunk with friends, and the topic of investing came up. Wife said something silly along the lines of, "Anybody can invest," and it became a lengthy discussion at the beach with all of our friends chiming in. In the end, wanted to take over daughter's investment account and manage it to show me how easy investing was. We discussed it at length over the following weeks, and she dug her heels in, so I relented and gave her control. Long story short, that account sits at just over $16,000 for 2 reasons: because she picked bad individual stocks instead of funds, and she wasn't adding to the account at the start of the month. Well, we had a blowout fight about a week ago after I mentioned to our son that he was going to inherit a bunch of money once he graduates this spring. Naturally, our daughter wanted to know if and how much she was going to receive. I mentioned that of course I'd done the same for her, but she'd have to ask her mom, as I wasn't about to be the one to set that ticking time bomb off. After wife showed the numbers, the meltdown happened, and then she told our daughter we'd just combine the accounts and split them equally. At this point, I flipped a lid and explained we'd definitely not do that, because in her everybody can invest nonsense, she insulted how difficult investing was and needed to deal with the ramifications of poor choices in investing. We've not had a meaningful discussion since. We've been cold to one another since, and our daughter is mad at us for the significantly smaller amount she stands to inherit. Am I the idiot? You are all idiots here. What is wrong with you? You want to teach your wife a lesson by making your daughter, a completely innocent party, pay the price? How in the world is that fair? And what kind of lesson are you teaching your daughter? That she'll be straddled with $45,000 of extra debt because mom and dad made a drunken bet and are horrible at talking about finances with each other? This isn't something that happened overnight. These are decades-long investment decisions. After the first couple of years of your silly experiment, you could have sat wife down, looked at the numbers together, and had her admit that investing isn't so easy. If that was the whole point of this, why did you let it go on for so long? Because your pride is more important than your daughter's future? Who commits decades to a stupid drunken decision without correcting things? I am amazed that OP watched this account for years, enough to know when money was going into the account and what was being invested in. This guy was literally watching the decline of his daughter's future for years. Also, he can say, "I told you so" to his wife. You are the idiot, OP, and you're lucky if she doesn't divorce you. How in the world is OP sacrificing his children's well-being for his pride and not the wife, who demanded to have control over her daughter's account to show OP that investing is easy to do, while not coming for help for years as the account's money declined? Is this opposite world? LOL. You are the idiot. 20 years? 20 years, and you didn't take over the account for your daughter after you saw how bad your wife was managing it? I'd understand if this was your and your wife's individual investment accounts, but this was done for your kids, both of them. Your daughter wouldn't just be paying for the consequences of her mother's bad investing skills, she'll be paying for the consequences of your negligence. You are all idiots here. I don't understand why so many people want to alleviate blame from your wife, as if she's not the fire starter in this situation. You honestly cannot win in this current scenario. If you split the accounts, your son will be resentful. If you don't, your daughter and wife will. Your best bet is to maybe convince your son to throw his sister some money. Otherwise, the family is going to be divided. My wife and I both work. Only difference is she actually goes into the office and I'm still working from home. We have a 10-month-old daughter, and I've been basically a stay-at-home dad on top of working my regular day job. It was so stressful when my wife finished up her maternity leave, but luckily my work is pretty flexible, so I'm not usually super busy. Most of the day, I'm replying to emails on my phone with my daughter in her carrier or taking conference calls while she's napping. I also do the cleaning around the house because I'm a total neat freak, and order or cook dinner too if I have the time. Then in the evenings, my wife takes over so I have some leisure time. On Sunday, we went to have lunch at her sister's house. First time we've all seen each other in a while. They ask us, how's life going with a new baby? And my wife starts making jokes about the house being a mess when she gets home and her having to clean it up because I've been too busy playing with our daughter all day to do it myself. When her sister's husband asked how I manage, I admitted it does get overwhelming sometimes, and my wife once again chimed in, saying I call her constantly throughout the day over little things, like not being able to find our daughter's binky or needing her help because our daughter won't stop crying and I have no idea what to do. She also laughed about how every day, when she gets home, she just prays I didn't burn the house down. I know it was all said in a lighthearted, joking around way, but it really hurt my feelings. Everyone was chuckling except me. So my wife kissed my cheek, telling me not to take it too seriously, and she appreciates that I put in the effort. So I straight up told her, well, I don't appreciate you acting like I'm useless when I'm the one at home taking care of her all day and cleaning the house. My wife didn't know how to respond, and we changed the subject. She was in a serious mood after we left because I embarrassed her, and it wouldn't have hurt for me to let her joke around a little because she knows I help out a lot. I've been distant with her, not talking much when she gets home, and she's mad at me for taking it too seriously. Even her sister says I'm overreacting, but I just don't see why she thought it was okay to paint me as the cliche useless man-child husband. Now I have my wife saying I'm being a bit of an idiot for still holding this against her, and she doesn't see why it's a big deal to me. Part of me just feels hurt, and I'd like an apology, but another part wonders if I'm being an idiot for how I'm acting with her. You are not the idiot, but your wife sure is. She's undermining your efforts. You're doing your best, man, and it's only a joke if it's funny to both parties. Otherwise, it's just being mean. Your wife needs to take a second and wonder why she's embarrassed. Here's the answer: because she knows you told the truth and she's embarrassed you called her out instead of going along with her jokes that make her look like the better parent. You keep doing what you're doing and make sure to have a serious talk with her when tempers are a little calmer. All right? You sound like a good dad, by the way. You are not the idiot. She probably feels guilty and insecure about being a working mom and you being the primary caretaker because, hello, she is a woman and lives in a society that expects things to be the other way around. She is an idiot for taking it out on you and needs to take responsibility for her actions and apologize to you. You two need to sit down and discuss things, and you are indeed owed an apology. You are not wrong. The only idiot I see here is your wife. Nobody would be laughing if the roles were reversed. The whole table would have been shocked Pikachu faces. Not only are you a stay-at-home dad, but you're also working and keeping house while doing so. Your wife owes you the apology. I'm in a pretty bad situation right now. When my stepdaughter got married 2 years ago, she used our home as the wedding venue. We have a meadow in our backyard that is able to accommodate a large number of people, as well as an empty, clean barn that can be set up for dinner tables. My daughter was supposed to marry at another location last year, but because of the global situation, the venue shut down permanently. She's now asked to use my home for the wedding, but I told her my issues with that. I had a restraining order against her mother, my ex, and a few members of her family after threats and harassment were directed towards my wife and myself. The restraining order expired mid-last year, but we haven't heard from them since, but I've stayed firm in my decision. This has upset my daughter greatly, and she screamed at me, which she's never done. I offered to give her $15,000 for an alternative venue, but now she's adamant about it being our home. I feel extremely uncomfortable giving my ex and her family access to my home because that's where the washrooms will be. My daughter has put this issue on Facebook, and I now have all of my extended family against me. This has also stirred up my ex and her family against me. And worse is that my wife and stepdaughter are now being accused of trying to ruin my daughter's wedding when they haven't played any part in it. I'm planning on giving in and letting my daughter use our home for the wedding later this year, but I'm going to tell my wife and stepdaughter not to be around for it, which I'm sure is going to create a bunch of other issues. Am I the idiot? Are you kidding? Not the idiot. You had a restraining order on 2 members, and you gave her the opportunity to find somewhere else. Why is she so adamant about your house? Not the idiot, but you would be if you gave in. Your offer for a compromise was very generous. I wonder if there's a deeper issue as to why she wants it at your house so badly. My guess is jealousy and/or pressure from her mom, but that does not excuse putting you, your wife, and stepdaughter's safety at risk. Stand firm. Unless she's willing to not have your ex and her family there, no wedding at your house. You are not wrong. It's your home. Holding a wedding at your home is a huge ask under more normal circumstances. Given that things were so bad with your ex and her family that you had a restraining order, you were wise to put the kibosh on having them at your home. You were more than generous in offering the $15,000 for another venue. More than generous. Your daughter sounds extremely entitled. Don't relent. Have the wedding elsewhere. You are not the idiot, but how is it that you raised your presumably adult daughter in such a way that when you don't give her what she wants, she screams at you and goes after you on Facebook? And why do you now think that the right thing to do is to give in to her antics by letting her do the wedding at your house after all? My own daughter just got married, and I provided financial support. If she had screamed at me about anything related to the wedding, you can be sure that the financial support would have been withdrawn. My parents are divorced. They divorced when I, nearly adult girl, was little. Both of them are married again to other people, and I have 2 huge blended families on either side. My mom has 3 more kids and 7 stepkids, while my dad has 4 more kids and 2 stepkids and is raising his wife's 2 nieces. I also have a brother who was 8 when our parents divorced. We both have pretty similar thoughts on the whole thing. We're sad our family didn't work out, always wish it had. Would have been easier for us if it had in some ways, but we know they are happier and better off apart. Back before lockdown, when schools were still open, we had to do this personal essay, and I did mine on how complicated it is to have divorced parents and be part of blended families. I spoke about how I wished it was different, how I knew it was better overall, and just in general how it can be hard to have that change in your life, and how going between houses and stuff is not fun or easy. Anyway, my parents didn't like it, and well, they decided to talk to me about how I was happier since the divorce, and why would I write that way when I know it's true? I told them it was far more complicated than it was for them. They said, but now I have 4 parents instead of 2, and I told them that it's a lot more complicated than that. It's been a thing ever since. They keep trying to tell me how I feel about the blended families making me happier because I have more people to love. They believe my relationship with my step-parents is the same, on the same level as with them, and that I feel the same about the step and half-siblings as I do my brother. So I set them both down recently and told them they cannot speak for my feelings, that I'm allowed to have complicated feelings on the whole thing. I'm allowed to miss my original family unit, when things are simple and I didn't have to move between 2 houses and 2 families. I told them they're my parents, but they're not the people who dictate my emotions, and they would push me away if they kept that crap up. They're ticked for how I handled the conversation, saying I was threatening them with estrangement and basically dismissing the fact that they are my parents and get to make decisions that they know are right for me. I told them it was very different, that I didn't say they shouldn't have divorced, but they cannot say how I feel about it. Things are weird now, and I'm wondering if I did go too far. Am I the idiot? They said now I have 4 parents instead of 2. I don't know. 20 kids between 4 parents versus 2 kids between 2 parents? Seems like you have less numerically. Serious though, no real judgment on the number of kids and the parents, as I don't know the circumstances behind them. But God, that's too many kids. You are not the idiot because you were mature, and more does not always equal better. You are not the idiot. Kinda sounds like your parents are feeling guilty about how their divorce impacted you, but instead of dealing with their own emotions, they decided to change yours, which they can't actually do. They feel attacked by what you said, instead of seeing it as a simple statement of facts. Your parents are showing why they couldn't make their marriage work. You are really mature and have an amazing grasp of the reality of casual divorce, and you're not wrong. Since forever, I, 25 female, was raised by my mom, 55, to believe my father, 60, was a bad man. He walked out on us when I was just a toddler. Since then, every time he was mentioned, my mom told me how bad of a man he is. When they got divorced, he had visitation rights, and I would feel very uncomfortable when he would visit or take me out for some ice cream or a meal. He was always in my life, but from a distance. Like he would come to my plays or my big games, come by on my birthdays with a gift in his hand, but I've never wanted him around because all I can think about were the things my mom kept telling me, that he's a bad man. She never told me why he was a bad man. And when I grew up a little, I asked her if he hit her or something, and she said no, never. But he was very selfish and angry and just left us two girls alone. As I said, he was always in my life, but I was the one who pushed him away. His presence felt uncomfortable to me, and he felt it too, so he gave me space. He didn't pressure. On my 19th birthday, when he came to visit me, I told him I don't want him in my life anymore, and that he left us when we needed him most. And he said that he supported us, and I told him it's not about money, and just told him to go. That was the last time I talked to him, and every year since, he calls on my birthday and on Christmas, but I don't pick up. 2 weeks ago, I met one of my mom's old friends. I didn't see her since I was a kid. We chatted and exchanged numbers and promised to meet. 3 days ago, we actually met, and we had a lovely chat. When my father came up, and she said that she couldn't believe what my mom did to him back then. I was shocked, of course, and I asked her to tell me, and she told me that my mother cheated on him several times with several men, and that he forgave her more than once, but when finally he was fed up, he left her and divorced her. I was completely in shock because that's not what my mom told me. I went to my mom's house at once and confronted her. At first, she denied everything, but after some time and yelling and then more yelling, she cried and told me everything, that she cheated on him and he couldn't take it anymore. And when he left, she was so angry at him that whenever his name got mentioned, she would say these horrible things about him. I'm now completely lost. I don't know what to believe or what to do anymore. This man I've hated my entire life, and I mean literally hated. And now I discovered that my mom, the most important person to me in the world, is a liar and a cheater, and he's the good one? Can you please advise me what I should do now? I mean, I hadn't spoken to my dad for the past 6 years, and I've treated him like crap my entire life. Would he be willing to accept my call after everything I've done to him? Or should I leave everything as it is? I mean, the damage has been done already. It's not like I can flip a switch and love him immediately now. He's still practically a stranger to me. What do you think I should do? He is likely to take your call. Arrange to meet him and tell him everything you said in your post. As for your mom, I'd cut her off for a while, as in no contact, and talk to a therapist. Your mom is horrible, brainwashing you like that and driving a wedge between you and your dad because of her pettiness and cheating. I'm so sorry you have to go through this. You're an adult now, and your dad is only getting older. I'd suggest reaching out to him first and start getting to know him. Better late than never. He sounds like a great guy from how you've described him and his actions. That is unbelievable. Heartbreaking for sure. He never tried to tell his side? I would call and explain your past feelings, actions. It's not your fault, and I'm sure he'll understand. It sounded like he put so much effort to be in your life. I'm sure he'll be over the moon to be back in your life again.